Thank you, Mr. President. And as my colleagues know, one of the best times of the week for me is when I get to come down and to the floor and talk about some of my great constituents back home in Alaska. Somebody or a group of Alaskans I refer to as the Alaskan of the Week. And you know, Mr. President, we all think we come from great states. But what I really enjoy about talking about the Alaskan of the Week is not just talk about Alaska and how beautiful and big and majestic it is, but the people who make it such a great place. And what I wanted to do in this Alaskan of the Week presentation was talk not just about Rich Owens, who I'm going to talk a lot about this afternoon, but I'm also going to talk about small businesses in Alaska, small businesses in this case in Anchorage, my hometown, because as you know, Mr. President, these are the owners of these businesses themselves that really make a positive impact on communities like Anchorage or states like Alaska, or really the whole country. So now, when you think of Alaska, and you think of food, particularly right now, as the spring is in full swing, you think of our delicious salmon. And good news for all the salmon lovers out there. Copper River salmon season just opened last week. Some of the best wild salmon on the planet. You might think about our halibut, black cod. We actually serve that to our fellow senators here when we have lunch. King crab, shrimp, oysters. The presiding officer I know loves Alaskan seafood. But what I want people to actually think about some of our food is ice cream. All right, I know that sounds a little strange, ice cream in Alaska. Yes, in fact, it is said that Alaskans consume more ice cream per capita than any other state in the country. Go figure on that one. But that doesn't surprise Rich Owens, our Alaskan of the Week, who is the owner of the bustling Tasty Freeze on the corner of Jewel Lake and Raspberry Road in Anchorage. That Tasty Freeze, Mr. President, which opened in Anchorage at a slightly different location 60 years ago, is one of the oldest Tasty Freezes in the country. And it sells more ice cream than any other Tasty Freeze in America. That's remarkable. Rich also claims the largest menu of any Tasty Freeze in the United States. But Mr. President, like so many of our great small businesses, it is much more than just an ice cream store. To those who live in Anchorage, and many who live across the state, Rich's Tasty Freeze is an institution. It's a bulwark for the community, thanks largely to Rich's ownership. Since he bought the business in 1994, he has made giving back to his community in so many different ways his top priority, beyond running that great small business. Now, Rich was raised in a small town in Montana. His father was a pharmacist and his parents owned a drugstore, and giving back to the community was something that he saw his parents do every single day. It was not the exception, Rich said, it was the rule. Rich came to Alaska in the 1980s to work at what is now the Millennium Hotel, another great business in Alaska, and in 1994, he bought the Tasty Freeze. Since that time, Rich has donated his time and energy, and importantly, his philanthropy to our great state and our community. Let me just provide a few examples. Rich is a huge champion for our schools. That can mean delivering up to 400 Sundays to take to elementary schools when they have a family reading or a math night. He helps fund school trips for students who need help. Every year, each elementary school that he works with stages a, quote, Tasty Freeze takeover. School staff members work shifts behind the counter, and Tasty Freeze employees wear school t-shirts. Those takeovers are widely advertised and popular, and Tasty Freeze donates a portion of that day's take to the school. Again, very, very focused on community. Rich has also formed a work-study partnership with high schools. He guesses that the average age of his 28 employees is about 17 years old, about the age of our pages right here, listening so intently. For so many Alaskans, it was their first, and some say their best job ever, to work in that Tasty Freeze that Rich owns. He has donated his time, his energy, and his talents to successful summer camps that teach young Alaskans about the outdoors and important values. In fact, one of his assistant managers began to work at the shop when she was 15 years old. She's 31 years old, and she met her husband at the shop. This is a great community, small business. And Rich is also a huge supporter of our military, our veterans, and the National Guard. And as we are approaching Memorial Day weekend, and as we are literally debating a very important Veterans Affairs bill on the Senate floor right now, it's important to remember the thousands of Alaskans, literally millions of Americans who are veterans, but who are like Rich, who are supporting our veterans day in and day out. So, for example, Rich has been part of the Alaska National Guard's Operation Santa Claus each Christmas holiday, which flies Santa Claus and a bag of presents, toys, schools, supplies, fresh fruit to some of the very most remote, far-flung Alaska villages each year during the holidays. And these kids in these communities love it. Of course, Santa and his helpers also bring Rich's ice cream. Thanks to Rich, the kids get ice cream in the winter. Every year, he serves thousands of 5-ounce sundaes to these young kids in our villages, some who have never seen sprinkles or caramel toppings on their ice cream. For his efforts, Rich is known in my state as the commander of the Alaska National Guard Ice Cream Support Squadron, with good reason. Now, Mr. President, just a few weeks ago, the Tasty Freeze in Anchorage, Rich's great small business, celebrated 60 years of service to the community. You want to know there's a popular small business in your community? Over 1,000 people showed up at this celebration. They served 1,644 small ice cream cones, not including the dip cones and the sundaes that day, all free of charge. Now, I was there for this great celebration. Senator Murkowski was there. Congressman Young was there. Our governor was there. The corporate officers from the lower 48 from Tasty Freeze flew up to Alaska for this big event. They had never seen anything like it. The #1 Tasty Freeze in the country. But what most excited Rich that day was all the people there who he had served throughout the years, including the hundreds of people who used to work at the shop, who met their spouses at Tasty Freeze, and who then had children, and those children now go there, and some even work there. Mr. President, that's what a small business with heart can do for a community. It can provide young people for their first real job. It can bring us together. It can provide a sense of community. It can serve the community. And of course, it can be a delicious place of memories for families. That's what the Tasty Freeze in Anchorage has done. And that's why we want to congratulate Rich on being our Alaskan of the Week and thanking him again for all the great things he's done for our state and community. I yield the floor.